Hello, Mrs. Charles' second grade class. We are going to put together this game. So the first thing we got to do is play it so we can see what we're going to build. So let's press the green flag, and we've got some fun music, and we've got a dog. This dog's name is Dot, and I am pressing the arrow keys to move Dot around. And when I run into this apple here, you can hear Dot make a little chompy sound. Womp. And you can just chase the apple around the screen. And that is the game that we are going to make today. So let's get started. Stop that. Here is the opening screen for Scratch, and if you'll remember, we press create, and that will bring us to a new project. And here's our Scratch the cat. So let's name this Apple Chase, or if you can think of a better name, you can use a better name. We are not going to use the cat, so we can get rid of him by pressing that garbage can there, and we're going to add Dot. So I went up to this search bar and typed in Dot, and he came up. You can click on him. He's kind of big. So I am going to make him a little bit smaller with my size. I think 70 will probably do. Yeah, that's better. That way he can have a little more space to explore that's not his own body. Okay. So now the first thing we're going to do with Dot is we're going to set him up so that he can move when I press the arrow keys. And Scratch makes that super easy for us. In the Events tab, there's a block that says when space key pressed, and the space has a little drop down. We're going to drag one of those out, and feel free to pause at any time. You can follow along. Instead of using the space bar, we are going to use the arrow keys. So let's make one for the up arrow. And if you right click on this block, you can click duplicate, and that will bring up another one for you to use. So I'm going to drag this one over to the right and use the right arrow here and duplicate this 2 more times for the down arrow and the left arrow. And all of these blocks are going to use pretty much the same code. And that code is, when we press an arrow key, we want our Dot, Dot the dog, Dot the space dog, space dog. We want Dot the space dog to, if we press the arrow or the up arrow, we want him to turn and face upwards and then move a little bit upwards. So the first thing we need to do is, instead of turning, we're just going to point straight upwards. So this is the point in direction block, and I want that to point upwards. Okay. So let's test that. You can click on this or press the up arrow key, and there he is. He's pointing upwards. That looks a little funny, and we'll fix that in a minute, but the pointing works. And now we are going to move a few steps. Let's just leave it at the 10. So now if I press the up arrow key a few times, now our space dog is moving upwards. And that duplicate functionality, if you right click on the top block that you want to copy and click duplicate, we're going to use that to copy this code to all 4 of our the other 3 arrow keys. So let's duplicate that 2 more times. All right, and we are going to need to change this because right now, no matter what arrow key I press, Dot always goes upwards. And the way we fix that is, actually, let's pause here if you want to, and see if you can fix it on your own. Okay, I'll assume you have tried on your own. And now the way we're going to do this is just change which direction we're pointing. So for this right arrow, we're going to point to the right. And let's test that. Now the right arrow moves to the right, and the up arrow moves up. So that looks good. Now for the down arrow, we're going to point down, and for the left arrow, we're going to point left. There we go. Okay, now we need to test this. Ooh, left looks kind of funny. He's upside down, but he's moving in the right direction. Up, right, down, left. Looks like it's working. Now this, it might be appropriate because he's a space dog, and gravity doesn't quite work the same way. So he might be walking upside down. But I like it when he is right side up. So let's use some setup code to make it so that he's always got his feet pointed downwards. And setup code always goes under the when green flag clicked. So when the green flag is clicked, we want to come to motion and change a setting here. Where'd it go? Here it is, set rotation style. Let's grab that block and put it on the when green flag clicked. And instead of all around, which is what is at right now, we want to do left, right. So now he's upside down, and let's press the green flag and see if he fixes himself. Yep. Now his feet are always pointed downwards, no matter what direction we're going. Great. Okay, now this is a good place to pause, so I'm going to move this code in here so we can see all the blocks at the same time. And I'm going to let you pause the video and copy this code. And hopefully you'll be able to get Dot the space dog moving just like I am. Okay. Now that you have Dot moving just like this, let's give Dot an apple to chase. So we need another sprite. And there's the apple. So we can click the apple there. And that looks like a pretty gigantic apple compared to our dog. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller again. Let's try 50 for this one. 50. There we go. That looks a little more manageable. Okay. This apple, what it's going to be thinking about the whole game is, am I touching the dog? And if the dog is touching me, then I want to make a little chompy sound because I just got eaten. And I want to move to a new spot on the screen so that Dot can come chase me again. Okay, let's do it. So for this, we're going to use the green flag as our starter here. So when the green flag is clicked, we want the apple to start listening to see if it is touching the dog. Oops, we want to do the code on the apple. So we're going to use an if, so control. This is if we are in the sensing touching Dot the space dog. So if we are touching Dot the space dog, then we want to move to a new part of the screen. So let's go to motion. And this says go to random position. That sounds like what we want. Now this code has a bug in it, but let's try it. So there's the green flag, and let's go touch the apple with our space dog, and nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is because when the green flag is clicked, it checks this once, and then it stops. So if we move our space dog onto the apple and then press the green flag, then the apple moves. Ooh, we could even do it one more time. But now that it's not touching the dog, no matter how many times we press the green flag, it's not going to move. And to fix that, we need to check this the whole game over and over and over. So instead of just checking it once, we're going to come down to control, and we're going to use a forever block. And this forever block is going to say the whole game, we want to check if we're touching the space dog. Okay, now that we've made that one change, let's see how it works. Let's use the arrow keys, and we can come find our apple, and there it is, it moved. Let's see if it works again. Yep. Looks like it's working. Okay. So this code was a lot simpler, go ahead and pause and you can get this set up and working. And once you've got it set up and working, we can add some extra flair to this game. Okay, now that you've got the apple moving and you can collect it with the dog, one thing we're missing is there's no chomp sound. And that is easy to fix. So we want to play a chomp sound whenever the dog touches the apple. So let's go to our sounds. Ooh, look, it's already got a chomp loaded up for us. Can you hear that? So all we need to do is play it at the right time. Let's go to sound, and we're going to say, instead of play sound, we're going to say start sound, so that we can start the sound and then move. Okay, now if we're touching dot the space dog, we're going to start our chomp sound and go to a random position. Let's try that now. We'll get our lovely pink cursor out of the way. Ooh, can you hear it? There it is. Okay. Now we've got that taken care of. We need a backdrop for this game. It's looking very plain and white. So you can scroll through these and pick one that you like. I think the one that I found was Space City. There we go. Now we've got our dog and an apple, and everything still works, and we've got a nice background. And the last part is we need some music. So since we're playing the chomp sound on the apple, we're going to have the apple be in charge of music. That sounds kind of funny. The apple's in charge of music, but that's the way we're going to do it here. We'd probably do it differently if we were doing this in a different language, but since we're in Scratch, we're going to have the apple do it. So we need to go back to sounds, and we don't have some good background music loaded up. So I'm going to add a new sound. And we want a loop, because they keep all the game background music in the loops. So I'm going to click loops, and there's some fun sounds here. I think the one that I picked was this one. So let's click that. Now we've got our song loaded, and we need to add it to our code. So this is a little bit tricky to get right, but luckily I'm here and I'll show you how to do it. We can have multiple when green flag clicked blocks. Did you know that? So let's go to events and grab another when green flag clicked. And what this means is when we click the green flag, both of these things are going to happen at the same time. So when the green flag is clicked, we want to go to sound and play the sound until it's done. And there's a bug here, and it's related to the one we had before, but I'll let you see if you can figure out what our bug is. So we've got our dog, and here's the apple. Can you hear the background music? It's working. Well, what happened? The background music only played once. And we can fix that the same way we fixed the other problem we had. We need to have it play the sound the whole game. And if we want something to happen the whole game, we need a forever loop. So this forever loop is going to play the sound, and when it ends, it's going to start over and play the sound again. Let's try that. Okay, that's one playthrough. Let's see if it starts over. Yep, there it is. It started over. Okay. And since I trust this code, I can trust that it'll play forever. So let's stop that. And there's our game. All right, if you want to stop there, that is perfectly fine, and you can have lots of fun playing your game. But if you want to stick around, you've probably noticed by now that the movement is a little bit choppy. If you press the right arrow key, it moves once and then waits a little bit, and then it starts moving more. And that is because of the way that we did the motion. So for those of you who want an advanced project, here's a little extra code that'll make our movement extra special. And it'll let us go in diagonals a little bit smoother than this. Here's what we're going to do. Kind of like how the apple had to use a forever loop and then an if, we're going to use a forever loop and some ifs instead of these when up arrow key pressed event listeners. So let's grab, actually we can just use this when green flag clicked. So when the green flag is clicked, let's say forever. We're going to use 4 ifs, but we'll set up this first one just as an example. So forever, every time the game thinks about things, we want to check if the up arrow key is pressed, and that is in sensing. So here we have key space pressed. Instead of the space bar, we want to use the up arrow. So now, at any point in the game, if the up arrow is pressed, we're going to do whatever's inside this if block. And what we can do is just grab the movement code from our old clunky event listener here. We can grab that same code and move it over and put it in our if. Okay, now let's press the up arrow key. We got to press the green flag to start. That music, it's super fun, but I'm going to turn it off just for now. Okay. Let's try the up arrow. Nice and smooth. You see how it's not stuttering at the start anymore? It just goes. Now we need to do that for all 3 of these other blocks. And we can use the duplicate. So let's duplicate it here. And instead of the up arrow, let's do the down arrow next. So we need to point down for this one. And we can duplicate that again. And now we have the right arrow, which means we have to point to the right. And the left arrow, which means we have to point to the left. Okay. And we also need to, we can throw these ones away because we're not using them anymore. So let's zoom out just a little bit so we can see all of this code. And let's test it. Let's go in. Now our space dog is really rocking and rolling here. There you go, it's nice and smooth. Okay. And for those of you who are really advanced, we can add a score here for how many times the apple has been clicked. So go ahead and pause and grab this if you need to. But I'm going to go on to adding a score. Let's go to the apple. And when the green flag is clicked, we have some setup code to do. Since we're not playing the music anymore, let's just use this when green flag clicked. And then we can add the music on the end. So when the green flag is clicked... Oh, actually, let's use this one because it has more to do with that. So put that one back. When the green flag is clicked, we're going to have to set up our score up here. And then if we're touching the space dog, we can have the score +1. We can add 1 to the score. For the score, we're going to make a variable. We'll make a new variable, and we'll call it score for all sprites. Okay. Now, when the game starts, what score do we start at? Usually 0, right? So we're always going to start by setting our score to 0. And that's all the setup we need for our score. You can see the score there. So we can attach our forever loop again. But there is one more thing we need to do with this score. Whenever we touch the space dog with the apple, we want to play a sound and go to a random position. And we also want to change our score by 1. We want to add 1 to the score. So I'm going to add that in there as one more thing we can do when the space dog touches the apple. And we want to change the score instead of my variable. I don't know why my variable is here. If we right click on that and say delete that, we're not using it. So it can go away. Okay, let's test this. Play. There we are. Can you see how the score... We've collected 2 apples, so the score's at 2. Keep watching that score. Let's see if it works. 3, 4, 5. Ooh, looks like we caught 2 apples really quick there. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There you go. That adds a little more fun here for our game. And that's all. Let's reattach our background music and play this one more time. If we press the green flag here, the score should go down to 0 because we're setting that right at the beginning. So let's test that real quick. Yep, goes down to 0. And now we've got some background music. And here's our game. We can collect apples in space as long as our hearts desire it. Okay, Mrs. Charles, 2nd grade class, thank you for letting me be your teacher here. And I hope you enjoy exploring more on Scratch and learning all about how to make video games. See ya.